So this is a pretty interesting story, economics wise, but also geopolitically speaking. And so what's going on is Russia, Putin is trying to get other countries to pay for gas in rubles. Now, generally speaking, pretty much all oil payments are made in US dollars, but that's mostly OPEC. Which is the oil making cartel of like, which has like a bunch of Middle Eastern countries in it, and so they pretty much all do their oil sales in dollars, so they actually sell them in dollars. Now Russia is not part of OPEC, and so Russia sells most of its oil, I believe, to Europe, but Europe pays mostly for it in euros. Now, what this is going to do is if they are to make it so that it's forced switch to rubles, assuming that other countries are essentially forced to purchase the gas, what it would do is it would boost the ruble. And so what would happen is the ruble would be bolstered and it would be worth more because there's higher demand for the ruble. Other countries would be converting currency or, purchasing rubles. Or converting currency into rubles. And so that will make it more valuable because people actually want to have it and are using it for something. And so that would bolster the ruble. And so this is the attempt to try to boomerang or try to fight back against the sanctions that are leading to a lower valued ruble. The ruble has completely tanked as all these sanctions have stopped. Obviously, investment stopping, businesses stopping, all these and as it starts to go down, bank runs end up crashing the ruble even more because everyone's running to the bank to convert their rubles into some other currency. They don't have that currency, the value starts to tank. And so when there's no other currency and you're trying to convert rubles, it's losing value. It loses more and more value because people want other currency over yours. And actually, Richard Nixon, he had actually in the 1970s removed the gold standard, which is when the US dollar was pegged to the value of gold. He actually said, no, you can't convert the US dollar into gold because the US dollar was tanking. And so he said, okay, we're not going to let you redeem US dollars for gold anymore because those bank runs were happening at that time too. Other countries were consistently trying to get gold and redeem their U.S. dollar that was losing value, and that ends up, tanking it even more, obviously. It says Russia will not immediately demand that buyers pay for its gas exports in rubles, the Kremlin said on Wednesday, promising a gradual shift and saying Russia should work on an idea to widen the list of its exports requiring ruble payment. President Vladimir Putin issued an order last week for Russian gas, which accounts for 40% of European needs to paid for in rubles instead of dollars or euros. Earlier on Wednesday, Russia's top lawmaker Vyacheslav Volodin said the European Union would have to pay in rubles if it wanted Russian gas. Said oil, grain, metals, fertilizer, coal, and timber exports could be priced the same way. The government, the central bank, and Gazprom are due to present proposals for the switch by Thursday. Gazprom in Germany, by the way, just got raided by German officials, is what I saw. Says asked whether the payment should be in rubles starting from Thursday. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said absolutely no. As we discussed before, payments and delivery is a time-consuming process. This does not mean that a tomorrow's delivery should be paid in rubles. From a technological point of view, it's a more prolonged process. Putin's order to charge unfriendly countries in rubles for Russian gas boosted the Russian currency after it plunged to all-time lows when West imposed sweeping sanctions on Moscow for its invasion of Ukraine. European gas prices also rocketed up. And so European countries are demanding it, saying that, they're not entitled to redraw contracts. And so what would essentially happen is, they could try to break the contracts. They're not buying, oil a la carte. They're not doing like little, transactions here and there. They have, long-term contract deals where like, okay, for 5-10 years, whatever, we'll purchase this oil from you for this set amount. So that's kind of the way it works. So if the contract says we're going to buy it in like 50% euros, 50% dollars, which is what it seems to be like around that right now. I don't know if it's more euros or how much more it is, but there's no way to go back on that. Now, Russia is obviously, they don't care about rules or contracts or anything like that. So are they going to follow the contract? I don't think so. But, I don't think that denial of following the contract will result in a purchase of gas in rubles. And I would say that, who's sort of at the, leverage position, or who's more in trouble here. Obviously, countries like Germany and Europe have ignored this issue for a long time, and so they're going to have to look elsewhere for gas. It's going to be gas, crises in these countries, and it's going to be a huge issue. Hopefully, it'll lead to more shift towards renewable energies. But, we're going to have to see what ends up happening. But this would bolster the ruble. Would be a long-term plan to bolster the ruble. Whether it'll actually end up working out or not will yet to be seen, because it'll depend upon whether or not, how badly do European countries need that oil, because they, especially like Germany, they've just completely said, fuck being self-sufficient, making our own, security in terms of energy. We're just going to stay dependent upon Russia. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens. But yeah, this would be a challenge to the U.S. dollar in terms of being like the petrodollar, and it would bring that down as well. It would bring down the, world's largest currency, reserve currency, which is the U.S. dollar. It would bring that down. Also depends on other countries and whether or not they're down to purchase it in different currency. Whether or not that would be beneficial for them, I'm not sure. Like, countries like China benefit from having a really high U.S. dollar, because then they can make cheap stuff at home with, their yuan, and then they can sell it for USD abroad, which makes them a lot of cash. So I don't even think it's really in their benefit to do it anyways. I don't think it's going to help them. But, regardless, it'll be interesting to see what exactly ends up happening.